Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old 4th Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Hello, and thank you for listening. Whether you listen on America One Radio, America One Radio's app, AmericaOneRadio.com, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or its own app, or at ProgressiveVoices.com, or via podcast, I thank you for finding your way to The Ron Show. So, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Those three words inextricably tied to the mouths of Republicans who have been howling like scalded dogs for the last few years that somebody, somewhere, has been wronged by those three letters and those three words, DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Don't know who, but somebody has been wronged by diversity, equity, and inclusion. The opposite of those words, by the way, would be homogeny, inequity, and exclusion. I don't know why Democrats have yet to embrace messaging that points that out. The reverse of diversity, equity, and inclusion is homogeny, inequity, and exclusion. Those are not good words. Those are not words that anyone would want to be associated with whatsoever. And so why Democrats aren't tying opponents of diversity, equity, and inclusion to those words. So you're for, Senator Burns, homogeny, inequity, and exclusion. I mentioned Senator Burns, Senator Max Burns, who grew up in Millen, Georgia, born in 1949, attended segregated schools, and now believes himself to be an expert on discrimination in schools. I bring him up because he was the mouthpiece, the foghorn leghorn, if you will, yesterday. I said, see here, boy, see here. He was the one in a Senate subcommittee yesterday who was the spokesperson of a tactic to revive Senate Bill 120, which did not pass the Senate, by putting it in another bill, House Bill 127, that was meant to expand paid leave for teachers. These are the kind of tactics, these are the kind of shenanigans that, I'll say it, bigots use to weasel their way through, weasel their intended, stated goals to get rid of equal opportunity, diversity, equity, and inclusion by instead injecting homogeny, inequity, and exclusion into a bill that had absolutely nothing to do with efforts to balance equal opportunity for school kids. Let me read from Ross Williams, reporting for the Georgia Recorder. In the final days of Georgia's 2025 legislative session, Senate Republicans passed a ban on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in schools and colleges through a committee by stripping out another bill expanding paid leave for teachers. House Bill 127 is the revival of Senate Bill 120, which did not pass the Senate by a key legislative deadline and would otherwise be dead for the year. The original bill by Dawsonville Republican Brent Cox expanded the number of sick days teachers could use to be absent for personal or professional reasons from 3 to 5. Gracious. The version that passed the Senate Education and Youth Committee Thursday instead builds on language by Tyrone Republican Senator Marty Harbin that bars schools and colleges from practices like promoting the different treatment of or provides benefits to people based on their race, color, sex, ethnicity. See how easy it was for me to say the word ethnicity? Max Burns doesn't know how to say ethnicity. National origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Committee Chair Billy Hickman, a Statesboro Republican, read the names of about a dozen people who came to speak at the hearing, but said they would not be heard because there was not enough time. Under the bill, I guess maybe these are the folks who have been wronged by diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't know. Likely not. Under the bill, post-secondary institutions would also be barred from promoting ideas such as unconscious or implicit bias, cultural appropriation, allyship, gender ideology or theory, microaggressions, group marginalization, anti-racism, systemic oppression, social justice, intersectionality, neopronouns, heteronormativity. I guarantee you Max Burns couldn't say any of these words. Disparate impact, racial privilege, sexual privilege, or any similar or related formulation of these concepts as their official opinions. The sponsor, Sylvania Republican Senator Max Burns, compared the concept to college basketball. Let's listen to him doing just that.
So I want to make a few quick opening remarks, and then I'll walk you through the short legislation. Education in Georgia must now address a concept which, perhaps well intended, is fundamentally discriminatory.
To who?
In the academic environment, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, bases decisions for admissions or employment or promotion or work assignments or resource allocation or other fundamental operational decisions in whole or in part on race, color, sex, ethnicity, national origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation.
What was that word again?
Ethnicity.
Okay, Senator, go on.
These decisions should be based on merit, performance, and ability.
And just in saying that is to insist that women, people of color, the LGBTQ plus who do meet muster are somehow not qualified or deserving?
We've experienced more highly qualified applicants in our educational institutions who fail to be admitted.
Do you have data on this?
Because of these discriminatory practices that admit less qualified applicants because of their ethnicity.
Okay, the first time he did it, I thought he was just messing up, just a misstatement. No, he doesn't know how to say
ethnicity.
No, ethnicity. But there he actually said it. Women, the LGBTQ plus, people of color who are
less qualified applicants.
Where's the evidence that any of these applicants are less qualified, sir?
In some cases, we've required employees and faculty to sign diversity statements indicating their conformance to an ideology that provides special consideration or benefits based upon race, sex, or ethnicity.
Oh, just somebody grab the mic and tell that man how to say ethnicity.
We've developed curriculums, programs, degrees, and courses at taxpayer expense to promote and promulgate this discriminatory ideology. The Senate substitute to House Bill 127 seeks to address these problems.
That he cannot quantify.
I'd like to point out several things.
He can't say ethnicity.
As of February 2025, 119 bills have been introduced in 29 states to curtail DEI initiatives in public colleges. That's per the Chronicle of Higher Education. These bills aim to prohibit using federal or state funding to support DEI offices or staff at public colleges, requiring diversity training, using diversity statements in hiring and promotion, using identity-based preferences in hiring and admissions, or mandating classes that promote promotion concepts like systemic racism and reparations.
Oh yeah, I got to snuff that stuff out because conservatives would be exposed for their activity politically, systemically, societally for the last, well, we can go back to the 1930s, the 1920s, the Jim Crow era, and the repercussions, the impacts that are still felt today. Can't go having that. Wouldn't want to teach future generations about this country being built on the backs of the enslaved people of color, the Chinese who built a lot of our infrastructure that is still in use today. Can't bring that up. Should not bring that up. Should not point to the fact that we owe more than just a debt of gratitude to those folks, but perhaps compensation to their descendants. Okay, go ahead, Senator.
Legislation has been officially passed in 12 states. Alabama, Florida,
the who's
Idaho,
of who?
Indiana, Iowa, North Carolina, North Dakota, Kansas, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming.
The bottom of the education rankings, by the way. Back after this. You can follow The Ron Show on your preferred social media platforms at Ron Show ATL. That's Facebook and Instagram and Twitter X, Threads, Substack. Oh, God, I haven't added Substack in a while. Don't go looking there. I mean, do. Eventually, I'll get to it. What else? Oh, Blue Sky, at Ron Show ATL. You can also call the show 404-919-2725. This push to get rid of DEI efforts in schools has the unintended consequence, by the way, of fixing some problems that exist in our schools across the country. And don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say here. When I tell you that women significantly outnumber men in the teaching workforce, I'm not saying that that is necessarily a problem. I'm saying that I think we all societally would agree that school kids need positive male role models in their lives outside of just their parents, their grandparents, their uncles, their neighbors, coaches, et cetera, and so on, right? Would that not be fair to say that it's a good thing societally to have positive male role models? There are kids who don't have those male role models in their homes or their families, and school may be the only place that they get that. Young boys, young girls too, but young boys having a male role model to look up to. There is a dearth of that in American public education. So efforts to target hiring of males in teaching would be a DEI initiative, right? And tell me, why would we get rid of that? Why would we get rid of efforts to bring more males into the teaching profession? I would say that, paying them better might help. Not just men, but like teachers, period. Or how about this? Here's where DEI actually does need to take some initiative here, if you will. Pardon my. Overall, women make up roughly 3/4 of the public school teaching workforce, 77%. At the elementary level, it's 89%. Women comprise 72% of the teachers in public middle schools. The number shrinks at the high school level for some reason. 60% of teachers in public high schools are women. Principals. Women make up 54% of public school principals. I'm surprised. Didn't know that. Good. Superintendents. Only 1 in 5 superintendents in the 100 largest school districts have been women over the last 15 years. Oh, that's interesting. The higher you go up the ladder, the less likely it is that a woman is in that position. Let's get back to Senator Max Burns as he continues to fail to say ethnicity correctly, I should add, but also explain the legislation that he's trying to shoehorn into a bill that was intended just to give 2 more extra days of personal leave for teachers to use during the school calendar year.
Let's go back to lines 28. No local education agency or post-secondary institution shall promote, support, or maintain any program or activities that advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we define what diversity, equity, and inclusion includes.
Which he has to do because he doesn't actually know all of the many and varied ways that diversity, equity, and inclusion are used to balance equal opportunity in our public and secondary schools. So he defines it to form his narrative.
Line 31, a different treatment or providing a special benefit to individuals on the basis of race, color, sex, ethnicity, national origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation.
Okay, I know for a fact that everybody in the state legislature has staff members. How has not one staff member of Senator Max Burns come to him and go, covering the mic, Senator, it's ethnicity, 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 ethnicity.
So I can't differentiate and provide special treatment. I want to give you a quick analogy.
This is awkward.
It's March Madness.
Old white guy talking basketball, y'all.
And we're all watching the tournament. I have 6'11" basketball players. I have 5'11" basketball players. They're not all the same size, but they all compete on the same floor. Some would suggest that's not equitable because they're not all 5'11" or they're not all 6'11". At the end of the day, the equality issue is their ability to compete and achieve based upon their performance. So you can't treat people differently or provide special benefits to them based upon their protected class.
Okay, actually you can, but never mind the fact that you're trying to use a sports analogy where players either make the team or don't make the team, get cut or become, walk-ons, get scholarships if they do or don't. Athletic teams are supposed to be representative of their college or university, right? And I would also argue, find any good coach out there who doesn't weigh character. There are attributes other than physical skill. All things being equal, coaches get to make decisions based on things other than all things that are equal.
Number 2 on line 34, you can't promote or promulgate policies and procedures designed or implemented with reference to those protected classes. Line 37, you cannot promote or promulgate training, programming, recruitment, retention, or activities designed or implemented with preferential treatment. Line 40, you can't promote or promulgate training, programming, activities designed or implemented with reference to those protected classes. Line 5, you see the same terminology. Can't promote an official position. So an institution, a school system, a school, a college, a university cannot promote as an official position a particular widely contested opinion referencing an unconscious or an implicit bias.
They've done studies on this, though.
Such as cultural appropriations, allyship, gender ideology,
I can't talk.
microaggression, group marginalization, anti-racism, systemic oppression, social justice, intersectionality, neo-pronouns, heteronormativity,
good job,
disparate impact, racial privilege, sexual privilege, or any similar or related formulations of these concepts.
He is looking to gut women's studies. He's looking to gut African-American studies, marginalization, any thought or concept or discussion of marginalization or oppression or cannot bring that up because it makes the old white people who went to segregated schools, like Senator Max Burns of Millen, Georgia, uncomfortable.
In 49, you see similar language to protect local educational agencies or post-secondary institutions that are involved in interscholastic or intercollegiate athletics. You'll notice that's a carve-out. 49 through 52 shall not apply, line 49. The provisions of subsection B shall not apply to any policy, rule, regulation, or practice adopted or enforced by a local educational agency or post-secondary institution relating to interscholastic or intercollegiate athletic programs. That was a carve-out, which was different from Senate Bill 120 originally. It was designed to protect women's sports. It was designed to ensure that programs that are positively identified based upon sex could continue to be appropriate and within the law of Georgia. And then in 53 through 57, subsection D, there is the penalty clause. Code section shall be subject to the withholding of state funding or state-administered federal funding. Lines 58 through 64 deal with secondary education. State Board of Education is also authorized to withhold a proportion of state funding. And again, line 61, no carve-out. And I think most importantly, in lines 65 and 66, nothing in the code section will be construed as to prohibit compliance with any applicable state or federal anti-discrimination law. Section 2 is simply the implementation date. I recognize that this is a controversial approach.
Yeah, it is.
I would like to point out that recently the White House issued an executive order on January the 20th of 2025. I have a copy of it here. And fundamentally, this legislation mirrors the White House executive order on DEI. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to attempt to entertain questions or concerns.
And that's where the entertainment comes in. And by the way, he's right. The press release from the department announced it was launching a portal so that anyone can submit reports of discrimination based on race or sex in publicly funded K through 12 schools. And I've suggested all along that if you someone you know in public school systems know of a woman or retired veteran, maybe someone who's disabled, who is also MAGA and working in public education, that they should either self-report or be reported because they benefited from DEI. Gotta go, right? Gotta go. Back after this, I do have to go. The Ron Show, America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn.
This is The Ron Show on America One Radio.
Again, Millen-born Georgia Senator Max Burns said, "It's March Madness and we're all watching the tournament. I have 6'11" basketball players. I have 5'11" basketball players. They're not all the same size, but they all compete on the same floor. Some would suggest that's not equitable because they're not all 5'11" or they're not all 6'11". That was his analogy for eviscerating diversity, equity, and inclusion. Any hint of it in K through 12 schools, post-secondary schools, publicly funded in the state of Georgia. Except height isn't a protected. This is an insulting argument in and on its face for women who have faced systemic oppression, for people of color who have faced systemic oppression, for the LGBTQ plus who have faced systemic oppression. I mean, speaking of athletics, I mean you couldn't be out publicly as a person who was LGBTQ plus. Let's even talk about the T part, right? This is the same senator who I'm sure, hurriedly raced to his button to vote for the elimination of transgender participation in sports. Man, it kills me how fast conservatives are willing to exclude, whenever possible, anybody who's other than their homogeny. Instead of finding ways, this is the thing, they have trouble finding ways to include everyone. So instead, they're like, cats knocking your cup over. Get that out of here. Don't want to see that. Get it out of here. Let's not try and fix inequality. Let's just get rid of all efforts to fix inequality, because there is at least the appearance of, or the perception of, a bias that impedes those who already have the privilege that we also have to not teach, because if we go teaching that there's privilege, then we make the argument for the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Nope, got to get back to homogeny, inequity, and exclusion. The good old days, the MAGA days. We've argued for a long time. When you ask MAGA, when you say make America great again, you're referring to a time when America was great before. When was America great before efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion? I'm just wondering. You know what? By the way, I don't know why, but for the last month or so, I decided I don't have a whole lot of binge-worthy shows to watch. The baseball season hadn't started yet. I just need something to watch. I hadn't watched a TV show of any substance pretty much since Paradise? That was 8, 10. I haven't had a whole lot of TV shows to watch. There are a lot of good TV shows I've never watched. I never watched Breaking Bad. I never watched Mad Men. I've been watching Mad Men, and I'm 4 seasons through 7 seasons. And listen, I understand that it's fictitious, but it can't be all that off, right? I mean, we know from history that women were marginalized in the workplace, if even allowed. You could go prior to the Mad Men era, when women weren't even allowed to work unless it was necessary. Rosie the Riveter. I'm watching Mad Men, and there were storylines where women weren't allowed to file for divorce, had no rights, were going to face an uphill battle in courts if they were allowed to divorce, as far as keeping the kids, because income, right? Never mind the fact that there's, my God, it's so distracting how much they smoke on that show. But then again, Lucky Strike is the moneymaker for the ad agency that Don Draper works for. Never mind what a flawed character Don Draper is, and the misogyny that exists, the racism, the subtle, the not so subtle, the anti-Semitism, and it's all just normal. It's all just, everyday stuff. And the show, in its brilliance, pushes the envelope on some of these things. But again, it's set in the 1960s. There's even allusions now and then to a gay character here or there. And the sadness that just envelops you when you're like, my God, back then you just could not even. It was unheard of. You just know. You'd get your head bashed in. You'd get arrested. There would be raids at clubs. That's, when I think MAG, I'm like, you're saying again, like there was a before. So tell me what before you're talking about. Well, Senator Max Burns, who attended segregated schools growing up, and I'm sure read from the history books that were stamped with approvals by the United Daughters of the Confederacy, learned a warped vision of what this country was and how the Civil War came to be and why, and likely never sat in the same classroom with a person of color. But he deems himself an authority on all the ills of diversity, equity, and inclusion by promoting homogeny, inequity, and exclusion. Well, after his little summation at a Senate subcommittee hearing yesterday, there were questions.
Mr. Chairman, I think that was a great analogy you gave would be a March Madness. How timely was that? Great analogy.
I love basketball.
And maybe he played on his high school team, but there were only white guys on that team. Also, can we find a Georgia male Republican that doesn't sound like Boss Hogg?
Senator Sims, what number are you? 9. Senator Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And after that rendition, I don't know if there'll be anybody left to play March Madness.
Well, there may not, depending on whether you're 5'11 or 6'11. I don't know.
I don't know either. Blue, black, or green. My first question is, where did the origin of DEI come from, and why was it needed or necessary or implemented?
Yeah.
What was the origin?
I think that's an excellent question, and I would defer to your input. Why do you think it was necessary?
No, I ask you, sir.
Well, I would tell you
No,
that
no,
I
no.
would suggest that
You were presenting the bill.
That's right. Any
That's
form
right.
of discrimination,
You too.
any form of discrimination is illegal.
All right. Who was being, Mr. Chairman, may I continue, please? So are you saying someone was being discriminated against?
I would say that when you require someone to adhere to an ideology that is contested as a condition of employment or as a condition of promotion, or if you have an admissions policy that limits access to more qualified students
Yes, sir.
based upon race or sex or ethnicity, that's discrimination.
Do you also say that, or would you agree or would you disagree, probably disagree, that it was put into place because of a certain, what do I want to say, lack of participation, not necessarily because of a lack of skill set or a lack of ability, but a lack of, and I don't want to use the word inclusion either, because that's not a good word either, but because there was a lack of
Opportunity.
most people, no, not opportunity. Because there may have been individuals within that organization that thought it was not appropriate to have individuals of sameness same looks, same color, same
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
to be a part of that organization.
I would say that certainly in the history of the United States, there's been inherent discrimination against
it.
individuals.
Like all the black students he didn't get to go to school with growing up in Georgia in the 1950s.
We have worked for decades to address that.
Bullshit. You've actually worked against it for decades. You and your party, conservatives, let's include conservative Democrats before the Reagan flip, before the Southern strategy flip. Conservatives have worked hard for decades to mitigate efforts to combat systemic racism, sexism. Hell, this is another means in doing so.
Including the work of the Civil Rights Movement, including the Civil Rights Act. Those are well documented and well accepted.
Then, Senator Burns, why has your party worked so hard to eviscerate those efforts in the last decade or two?
At the end of the day, what we're now seeing is the reverse, where individuals who did not belong to a protected class are being discriminated against and not being allowed the same opportunities.
Who?
Let me follow up with one more thing, just one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Very few blacks embrace DEI, okay? And let me tell you why. We never thought after civil rights bills were passed that we would have to acquiesce to that, because we thought that there would be a fair, level playing field. The bill, DEI is here for opportunities only. I don't want to go to your country club. I don't want to go to church with you. I don't want to sit at your dining room table. I enjoy being with my black girlfriend.
Okay. Well, I want you to know,
Okay.
you're welcome at my
But I'm
dining room
not
table,
done.
and you're
I'm not
welcome at
done.
my church.
No.
Yeah, you are. I
But
have members
we
of my church.
wanted opportunity.
Okay.
And we wanted to be able to have those opportunities, especially in the workplace.
I agree.
Now, I'll tell you, moving in neighborhoods years ago, because I'm an old lady, okay?
I'm an old man.
And in those neighborhoods, it was called white flight. I've seen my neighbors leaving
That's right.
with the furniture falling off the trucks. They were leaving so quickly. So I moved as far out in the woods as I could, because I thought it was a very sickening kind of feeling, and it was a sickness to see that kind of behavior.
And now that behavior can't even be taught about to our school kids.
Here again, blacks don't particularly care for DEIs. We want to be considered as intelligent, as equal,
Right.
As peers, as colleagues.
but we know that that's, as long as we live on this earth, it's not going to be accepted. So,
I would
having
hope we
said
both
that,
live long enough that is not true.
well, I don't know. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Senator Burns would benefit from actually hobnobbing with some people outside of his bubble. He didn't get to experience that growing up in public education, in his family, in his community, his neighborhood. He didn't get to experience any of that. And it shines through because he lacks perspective of anyone other than his homogeny. Senator Elena Parent was next in the questioning.
Number one, can the university, under this legislation, could the
Yes.
University of Georgia Law School have a Black Law Students Association?
The University of Georgia can have any association that is appropriate, that does not discriminate. If that black student law association is willing to accept individuals of any color, that's not discriminatory. And that, by the way, that's a voluntary
Yeah.
type of an organization. It's an association. Now, does it receive university system support or
Yeah,
University
they all
of
do.
Georgia
I
support?
mean, all these do, yes.
But they do that actually through student fees, not through state funds. Is that not true?
I'm not certain for the law school here. I just am aware of that.
Let me say, my experience in higher education would suggest that student organizations are funded through student fees, not through state allocations.
Oh, well, wait till the Muslim student joins the Jewish Law Students Association. That's going to be a little awkward. Better yet, I guarantee you when a trans female student joins a woman's student association, Republicans will have some legislation for that.
All right. Because we're short on time, I won't get into a back and forth with you on
Okay,
that.
that's okay.
I dispute the way this is written in your answer, but
Sure,
that's okay.
I understand.
All right. So next line, looking at line 47, you've got something in here about disparate impact.
Yes.
So you're probably aware that
Here she goes.
disparate impact is a constitutional law. It's essentially a ruling, holding
Okay.
of the United States Supreme Court, and it is the law of the land with regard to a number of different subjects. So my question is, does this sort of say that if I'm teaching con law at one of the law schools, I
Constitutional law.
can't talk about the jurisprudence on disparate impact?
I would suggest to you that an academic subject on any topic would be appropriate, and it would not be in any way impacted by this. Now, I'll tell you what would be impacted. If that law professor required their students to concur with their position, to use a neo pronoun, to acknowledge that they're
not what she
an
asked.
oppressed class.
not what
That's
she
not what
asked.
I'm asking, just about disparate impact.
Okay.
Right.
Because it is Supreme Court jurisprudence,
I would
right?
say
So,
that-
yeah, it hasn't been like overruled, so it's a very well-known
The Supreme
term
Court last
con law.
in March of I think 2023 ruled that applicants who were
It's not about that.
I
It is
understand, but
about-
I'm just saying
I know
that-
that. Yeah, thank you. I understand that. That is, disparate impact is a U.S. Supreme Court constitutional holding with regard to some other topics. So let me just ask you, with this 5, what examples can you give me? This is 43 through 48.
43 through 48. Okay.
Yes. What post-secondary institutions have promoted any of this as any official position?
I think that's this is a preemptive clause if it has not occurred.
there it
it's
is.
designed to ensure that it not raise its inappropriate head. I would say that
A solution looking for a problem.
DEI, as I began, was a well-intentioned concept that has been abused.
So no one has actually done this. What we're outlawing is not happening at all in Georgia. Thank
I
you.
would suggest that I'm not aware of it. That
it's
doesn't
not- it is-
necessarily mean that it hasn't occurred.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Elena Parent, who, by the way, is a lawyer, just embarrassed, just pantsed Senator Max Burns, who, by the way, is not a lawyer, on a bill that he was there to push, which, by the way, passed out of that committee because, of course, it passed out of that committee. Republicans had the numbers, so it goes for a full floor vote. It's the Ron Show, America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. All right, final few minutes of today's Ron Show, and I'm watching a little bit of the Elon Musk interview on Fox News. I know. Self-inflicted punishment. And I just keep going back to something I say all the time about MAGAs and conservatives. Their lack of self-awareness. Senator Max Burns, their lack of self-awareness is stunning. There's been this whole woe is me, I'm the victim, my Tesla dealerships, my company, the stock cratering. This is all due to a vast conspiracy and propaganda and blah, 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 blah. The lack of self-awareness in this tribe is stunning. How many... we're not all that far removed from seeing Kid Rock taking a rifle or shotgun to a six-pack of Bud Lights simply because that beer manufacturer sent a personalized six-pack can of beers with someone's face on it, and they opposed that. What happened to Bud Light, the brand? What happened to sales? What happened to, Elon Musk saying this last night on Fox News.
It's the people pushing the propaganda that caused that guy to do it. Those are the real villains here, and we're going to go after them.
What about the J6ers who stormed into the Capitol? Who was it that stirred them up with rhetoric and misinformation and distortion and propaganda? And why are we not going after them? I can't wait till President AOC takes this precedence and decides to go after talk radio, Fox News, Newsmax, OANN, for propagandizing people who then break the law. Cannot wait. It's a precedent it's worth considering, right, Elon? He continues.
And the president's made it clear we're going to go after them. The ones providing the money, the ones pushing the lies and propaganda, we're going after them.
He said that on Fox News. On Fox News! This is crazy, man. Okay, set the precedent. By all means, set the precedent. Say if a major retailer were to have Pride merchandise set up, just spitballing here, Pride merchandise set up during the month of June, and some mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging bigot came in and trashed the store and left, would the Trump White House and Elon Musk vow to go after them, or to go after those who parrot propaganda that stirred up someone to act that way? Or is this just being applied to anyone who doesn't like Elon Musk? Let's just call it for what it is. Right-wing talk radio, cable news, thrives on lies by distortion, lies by omission, painting a false narrative, many false narratives. Lying is protected under the First Amendment. Specifically, if, in the case of Fox News, you don't label yourself necessarily a journalistic organization, but as entertainment. That's how the Laura Ingrahams and the Sean Hannitys, the Jesse Waters of the world, get away with what they do. They're not straight news organizations. It was, after all, Fox News lawyers who argued back in 2020 when Tucker Carlson was being sued for slander. It was Fox News lawyers who argued in court that a reasonable person would understand that Tucker Carlson's words were loose, figurative, or hyperbolic. Just 3 words for lies. But Elon Musk, in that clip that we started this segment with, seems to believe that a Fox News or a Tucker Carlson or a Sean Hannity or a Laura Ingraham or a Jesse Waters should be held accountable by government for propagandizing people who wind up doing bad things. Right? Right? We just had an entire 4-year period where hundreds, if not into the thousands of those who participated in the January 6 riots were being held accountable, while the chief perpetrator of the propaganda that whipped them into that frenzy was able to dodge any governmental repercussion because the party that Elon Musk now aligns with did everything they could to see to it that there would be no blowback for those who propagandized those folks on January 6th into the illegal behaviors that we all witnessed on live television that day. With Elon Musk, with MAGAs, with Republicans, conservative pundits, self-awareness is sorely lacking. But by all means, set the precedent so that President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can take down Fox News and OANN and Talk Radio and Newsmax. I look forward to it. I also look forward to this weekend. Gosh, it's time for one. This show airs Monday through Friday, 9 a.m., 5 p.m. on America One Radio on its app and AmericaOneRadio.com. Progressive Voices via TuneIn on its app as well at 11 p.m. or via podcast. Show notes as always at RonShowATL.com. Have a great weekend.